Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals virtual meeting. Per Executive Order 202.28 by the Governor of the State of New York, the town of Smithtown is required to continue hosting all public meetings either in person, in which case we must prohibit physical public contact, or public meetings can be held remotely via conference call or similar service. Additionally, per the Executive Order, the town continues to live stream, record, and transcribe each meeting. As a reminder for any resident wishing to view tonight's meeting, you can do so by clicking on the Agendas and Meeting button on the home page of the Town of Smithtown website at www.smithtownny.gov. You are here tonight seeking relief from the zoning ordinance of the Town of Smithtown, and it is our job to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It is up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Whether the requested area variance is substantial. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. Okay, here are procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order in which they were advertised. After your case is announced by Mr. Donadio, the moderator will connect you to the meeting so you can present your case to the board. Once you have completed your presentation, if anyone on the board or in the planning department has any questions, they will be asked. Then any interested party who would like to speak on this case will be given one opportunity and only one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions and concerns, after which the case will be closed. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. You can contact the planning department after 12 noon tomorrow for the status of your case. We have a couple of adjournments for this evening, and they are as follows. Case number 18497, Jennifer Greenspan. That location is 14 Dalewood Lane in Kings Park, has been adjourned to May 11th. I believe we have one more. Case number 18507 333 Blue North LLC. That location is 52 North Country Road in Smithtown. That case has been adjourned to May 25th. With that, I will turn it over to Blaze for our first case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda is case number 18498, Scott Rousseau, 2 Garrett Street, Comac. The location of the property, the southeast corner of Garrett Street and Terry Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 22 feet on Terry Lane for a proposed 420 square foot second floor addition and garage conversion to habitable floor area.
Good evening. We have the applicant?
He's here, just needs to unmute himself.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. Can you state your name and spell your last name and give your address for the record, please?
Yes, certainly. For the applicant and owner, Christopher Modeleski. I'm an attorney at law with offices at 44 Elm Street, suite number 18 in Huntington. I don't know if I'm supposed to be seen or just heard, Mr. Chairman, and
well, we just care about the record, so if you'd rather not be seen, we can do it any way you'd like.
No, I keep trying to start the video and it keeps telling me that the host has stopped it. So, I mean, I'm here in my law office. I'd be happy to have you see. Okay, start my video.
Oh, there you are.
There I am. Okay.
Can I just, Mr. Chairman, can I get the spelling of his last name, please?
Sure.
Certainly. Modele WSKI.
Thank you.
Thank you
Tell
very
us
much.
why you're here this evening?
Yes, I can, Mr. Chairman. I'm here for the applicant and owner. The subject premises, it received the benefit of the imprimatur of this board many decades ago with respect to the garage unit, which is located on the corner of the lot. The relief that we're seeking here tonight is appropriately advertised because it includes an as-built addition over the garage. So there was non-conforming bulk that was added, although the setbacks are legal by way of the imprimatur of the board dating back to 1964. So I would direct the board both to that predecessor decision with respect to the 22 feet, whereas the code strictly requires 40, and simply ask that you also, well, you know the present conditions in your own town and your own neighborhoods, but I thought it was a good idea to include some photographs of other nearby homes. I can't tell you to a certainty that any of them were constructed or added to by benefit of grants from the board, but just in terms of massing and establishing the streetscape and having a good working understanding of what's around the subject property, I thought it might be a good idea to show the board some of those other homes. So my case in total is that the
I'm going to, how do you know if I'm muted or not?
I'm sorry?
I think that was somebody from the audience. I think they're muted now.
Okay. The relief that we're seeking this evening is not in any way detrimental to any of the other surrounding properties. In fact, it's cohesive and falls in line with the rest of the pattern of development in the neighborhood. And as I said, it's simply an augmentation of the relief that was deemed to be appropriate many decades ago when the garage was lawfully permitted to be located where it is. So we look forward to any questions that you might have as board members or any comments, and be happy to respond. If there's any questions about what's inside the building, Mr. Chanowitz, the expediter, is also on the line, and he's available if the the board has any questions about the interior spaces.
Okay, I'll ask, anyone on the board have any questions regarding this application?
No, no, thank you.
Planning, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone in the audience? Nicole, you want to, I guess, check and see if anyone has any questions?
Right, so I'll just ask members of the audience or the public, not applicants, if you would like to speak on an application tonight, you can utilize the chat function, or you could raise your hand upon the presentation of the application. I do not have anyone in the audience wishing to be heard on this application.
Okay, if that's it, Mr. Modeleski, I can ask for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, case is closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18499, Roger McConville, 29 Cedar Place, Kings Park. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Cedar Place and Twin Oaks Drive. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 45 feet to 33 feet on Cedar Place for an existing 260 square foot front covered porch. To reduce the front yard setback from 10 feet to 0 on Twin Oaks Drive for an existing 5-foot fence. To permit an accessory structure in the required front yard and reduce the front yard setback on Twin Oaks Drive from 45 feet to 18 feet for an existing 140 square foot shed.
We have the applicant here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not seeing myself here. Let me see here. What's going on? Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? This is John
Yep.
Gleason.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. There you go. Sorry about that. I can't see myself on the thing, on the Zoom. Like the attorney previous to me. I represent the owner. My name is John Gleason, architect. I'm at 336 6th Avenue in St. James.
Can you spell your last name, Mr. Gleason, please?
Gleason.
And have you submitted a power of attorney already?
Yes, I have this today. I have submitted the power of attorney on the
We have
Blumberg
that on
form.
file, everything's
Yes.
okay. Perfect. Okay. You want to tell us why you're here?
I'm here to represent the owner, Mr. Roger McConville. Recently, Mr. McConville bought the house, knowing fully that he had to obtain COs for the 3 items that are before the board tonight. The existing front porch is an open roofed over porch. It extends into the required front yard setback. The porch is on a sloping front yard, does not block any views or obstructions, interference with the driving ability of anybody operating a vehicle on the corner of Cedar Place and Twin Oaks Drive, excuse me. The shed is in the front yard due to the corner lot condition and configuration. The shed can barely be seen from the street and neighborhood properties. Again, it's a hilly terrain area. I know a couple board members are familiar with the Kings Park neighborhood that this residence resides in. The shed is bolted on a concrete slab. There's a pool in the backyard. It would be a tremendous task to remove it and move it. It's in a proper location for really prime use in the backyard. The vinyl fence, as you just saw on one of the photographs, is on the property line. It is a 5-foot-high vinyl fence, but keep in mind that the top 1 foot of this fence is lattice. It's open. It's an open part of the fence, as you can see. I don't know if any of the members were able to get by the site in the last couple of days, but it doesn't cause any vision problems, any distractions, obstructions for anybody entering the intersection. For vehicles, drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists, etc. It's pretty innocuous, actually. Those are the 3 items that we are presenting today for the BZA to approve. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
The only question I would have is on the fence.
Yes.
Which is essentially a 4-foot fence with that 1-foot lattice on top. This application is to approve that existing fence, not to put a different 5-foot fence, correct?
Correct. We are gonna approve that fence as it stands, or if it gets replaced, we're gonna do a similar type of fence. I don't know if the board would, would allow a 5-foot solid fence. I'm not sure if that's allowed in the code or by the BZA. But as it stands now, that fence will probably it's the owner's intention to replace it with a similar fence, same type of fence, but a newer style without the connections on the the fence posts. It's a little old dated construction of the vinyl fence, if that makes sense.
Okay, so would the applicant obviously be okay with us conditioning it upon, if it gets replaced, that the fence be a similar type where it has that top foot is you can see through the top 1 foot of the 5-foot fence?
Yeah, I believe so, and I think the applicant may be in the audience. I'm not sure, but I don't see any issue with that. And I know that fences are a big sticky point with the board and any board really in any town on corner lots. Obviously, people want to maximize the backyard on a corner lot. I get that all too well, and having seen these cases for many decades. So, yeah, that fence could probably be replaced in kind. Yeah.
Okay, so anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No questions.
Planning, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Nicole, do you have anyone in the audience that has any questions?
No, Chairman. I'll just remind folks again to utilize the chat function or the raise hand function on the application they wish to speak. Thank you.
Okay, I guess no questions in the audience. We'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
No move. Second.
Regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, on to the next case.
Thank you, board members. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18501, Thomas Fagan, 336 Second Avenue, St. James. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Second Avenue and Railroad Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard on Second Avenue from 40 feet to 37 feet, to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 24 feet for a proposed 1,126 square foot, two-story addition consisting of 438 square feet of first floor, 312 square feet of second floor, and 376 square feet of attached garage.
Okay, we have the applicant.
I'm representing the applicant. They should be in the audience.
Okay, do you have power of attorney, or do we need to bring them
No,
on?
we sent them an email letting them know that they had to appear. So as far as I know, they should be online somewhere.
Chairman, if their first name or last name, their first name and last name is not showing up here, they might be on phone.
Okay. You need them to raise their hand, or?
Yeah, if you could raise your hand. I have somebody coming in right now under an iPhone too, that might be them. Yeah, I think if you're on a telephone trying to unmute yourself, I believe it's *6 to unmute yourself if you're the applicant. Give him a second. And if you're having difficulty on your computer, again, you can use the raise hand or the chat function so I can locate you. This is for, maybe if it's the person who just jumped on iPhone, maybe you want to just read the address again. Maybe they missed it when they came on.
Thomas Fagan, 336 Second Avenue, St. James.
Anything, Nicole?
Nothing yet. Not seeing them anywhere.
Mr. O'Connell, you want us to come back to this? We'll go on to the next one and you give them a call and we'll come back to it?
Yeah, I'll give them a call on the line. I have another case coming up with you anyway.
Okay, so just raise your hand when you get a hold of them and we'll.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so Blaze, you want to move on to the next one?
Absolutely. The next case on the agenda, case number 18489, Anthony Donaldson, 48 Sunflower Drive, Hop Hog. The location of the property is the south side of Sunflower Drive, 226 feet east of Dewberry Place. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 45 feet to 40 feet for a proposed 328 square foot front porch and 100 square foot garage addition.
We have the applicant.
Just waiting for Vinny Tremarco to unmute himself.
I think this is Woodhull Expediting. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, this had a power of attorney submitted.
It did. Yes, it did.
Hang on a second. She just came back on. It's just going to ask to unmute her. Okay. All right.
Good
Okay.
evening, Mr. Chairman. I just got booted off of Zoom. If the case that's up on the screen is the one going forward, this is not my case.
No, you should be, are you 18489 Anthony Donaldson at 48 Sunflower Drive?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's the one we're on.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
That's
Technical
okay.
difficulties.
Okay, you want to give us your name, spell your name, and give us your address for the record.
Sure, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Amy DeVito, DeVito, with offices at 1031 Main Street, Port Jefferson, New York, 11777.
Thank you very much. You want to tell us why you're here?
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So my client, the Donaldsons, the owners of the property and applicant, are proposing to renovate their home for their growing family. They are proposing to push their garage forward to accommodate a mudroom and a bathroom between their existing family room and the existing garage. Additionally, they are proposing to do a renovation of the facade of their home to update it and beautify it, which would create a porch that would also encroach to the same setback that the garage addition would. So we are requesting 40 feet where 45 feet is required. In just driving around the neighborhood and researching, we did find some homes in the neighborhood that do have similar setbacks. They look to have been renovated over the years. One being at 23 Dewberry Place, another being at 1 Sorrel Hill Lane, and another being at 147 Autumn Drive. We also found some similar grants in the neighborhood wherein a front yard setback was granted lesser than what is required. I could name those if you'd like me to, otherwise I could always submit them to planning to be part of the record. The renovation that we're proposing would not create any detriment to the neighborhood or undesirable effect on the neighborhood. In fact, it would be consistent with the beauty of the neighborhood, and again, with the facade renovation, we feel that it would only complement the neighborhood. It's not any detriment to it would not have any environmental impact on the property or the surrounding neighborhood. There is very nominal extra square footage for roof, so we don't anticipate any additional roof runoff that new gutters and leaders wouldn't handle. And there would be no impact on any sanitary flow. We're not adding any additional bedrooms, just a little bit extra square footage to accommodate a bathroom. We don't feel that the variance is substantial. In our opinion, it is a de minimis request, and again, would complement the neighborhood very nicely. And I am happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. I apologize. We had the wrong plans up at first. We have the right ones up there now. Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
Planning, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, Nicole, anybody in the audience have any questions or comments?
No, Chairman.
All right, that being said, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that case is closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
So it was on the back side, so it should have been, that's why we.
I think Blaze is muted now. There you go.
There we go. Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. The next case on the agenda, case number 18502, Parsonage Road Properties Limited, 57 Gibbs Pond Road in Wisconsin. The location of the property is the east side of Gibbs Pond Road, 174 feet south of Michael Place. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum lot frontage at the setback line on lot number 1 from 100 feet to 84 feet, to reduce the minimum lot frontage at the setback line for lot number 2 from 100 feet to 84 feet within the subdivision known as Gibbs Pond Estates.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Tremarco here?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavit of posting and mailing this afternoon to the planning department. I don't see my picture up, but that's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, it looks like you're on a phone, but we can hear you fine.
Okay, great. As you can see, this is a very long plat. It's been divided basically in half. At the street line, it's a couple of feet bigger on each lot than at the setback line, which we're asking to be 84 feet instead of the 100-foot requirement at the setback line. The project will meet the side, front, and rear yard setbacks, as well as more than meet the R50. There is approximately 25,000 square feet for each parcel. I would also like to note that the planning board recommended to this board approval of the reduction of the front yard at the setback line. We don't feel that this would have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. It is a long lot which we will keep sufficiently away from a busy road, Gibbs Pond Road. The benefit, can it be achieved by an alternative method? No, this is really the only way we can subdivide the property. We don't believe the request is substantial, given the fact that anyone riding along Gibbs Pond Road is not going to notice whether it's 100 foot or 84 feet at the setback line. And the variance is necessary in order to subdivide the parcels. Again, I want to emphasize this is the only variance we're asking. We will meet the front setback, the side yard setbacks, and the rear setback, as well as the area. We don't feel it have an adverse effect on the environment, and we're applying for the variance. We haven't built anything there yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tremarco. Is there anyone on the board that has any questions regarding this application?
No, thank you.
Planning, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
All right. Nicole, how about anyone from the audience?
Oh, can I speak? I don't know if I'm speaking.
Sorry, I was just going to say, do me a favor. If you have a comment or you'd like to speak, please use your raise hand function. If you're on a phone, you could press star 6 to raise your hand. I do have one woman who just announced herself, which we'll call, and I have a couple. Sorry, and if you can't find the raise hand function, please just utilize the chat function, and I'll call on you in the order your name was received. For the woman who is on the iPhone, if you can, please state your name, your address, and if you could spell your name for the record.
Justina, Justina, last name Locrotondo, Locrotondo, and I live on Michael Place, number 6. So this building that they're going to be building will be exactly in my backyard. For them to be dividing the street, like how they're going to build the houses, is there going to be 2 houses facing my backyard close to 84 feet to my fence line?
We'll ask. It does not appear that way, though.
Because it's like directly right in my backyard where they're going to be building the 2 houses. So I didn't know how, I guess on this picture, it'd be 2 next to, my husband wanted to make sure that they're not close to my fence line.
It appears that both houses meet all of the other setbacks. So the side yard setbacks would be, well, we can have Mr. Tremarco answer your question. We're going to bring him back as soon as we get all the questions on, and he can answer it better than I can.
Okay, because I'm on 6 Michael Place. So like my back, like when I look at my backyard, I have full view of the field that they took down, the houses. So they're gonna be building 2 houses now, right in my backyard. My husband wants to make sure that, because they want to go 84 feet, he doesn't want it close to our fence line. So does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we'll ask him, and we'll bring him back and he'll answer your question.
Okay. Yeah.
Was that the only question or concern you had?
I guess so. There's nothing we can do if they're going to build 2 houses and are, in this. I didn't know if that it was able to subdivide to get 2 houses back there. So, I guess that's really it. I just want to make sure it's not like on top of us in our backyard that they're trying to come closer in.
Okay, we'll confirm for you, but it doesn't appear that way.
Okay.
Nicole, did we have anyone else that wanted to speak?
Not on this application, no.
Okay, Mr. Tremarco, would you take a moment and I guess address her concerns, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If Ms. Locatondo could look at the map that is up on the wall and up on the computer, you can see that your lot on Michael Place is the 3rd lot in from Gibbs Pond Road. And that map also shows the location of our houses, and your house will be basically looking into the backyard where there is no structures proposed at this time. You see where your name is, it says Raymond Locatondo, and it's towards the back of the subject property. So there is nothing proposed there.
I also noticed, Mr. Tremarco, on the plan that there's a proposed limit of clearing where it's going to be left natural.
Yes, I see that too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yep, we can only clear based upon what the map shows, and it shows a limit of clearing, which is again another benefit or might alleviate Ms. Locatondo's concerns.
Okay. All right, I think that's it. Did you have anything else to add, Mr. Tremarco?
I do not.
All right, that being said, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, case is closed. Thank you, Mr. Tremarco.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18503, Christopher Fezza, 6 Ray Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property, the south side of Ray Lane, 151 feet west of Plaisted Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 0, to reduce total side yards from 28 feet to 12 feet for an existing 96 square foot doghouse.
We have the applicant for this case.
Yeah. Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mark Anthony Monastery, architect. My office is located at 1563 Belmore Avenue in Belmore, and I am representing my clients, Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Fezza, who are the owners and occupants of the subject property.
All right. Do we have a power of attorney, Karen?
I didn't see a power of attorney on this one.
We do not have a power of attorney, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Monasterio, would it be okay if we got the applicants here where we can get them first, just to get them on the record?
I believe Mr. Fezza is there, yes.
Mr. Fezza, if we could, I guess, just get
He
your
has
name and
to
address.
unmute himself. Give him a second to hit the unmute button. We've got video. Mr. Fezza, the mute button is on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Looks like a little microphone. Now he's, okay. He shut the camera off. I also sent you a request to unmute yourself. Should show up on your screen.
Technology.
They might be having some technical difficulties with their computer. They can always call into the meeting too. Or is it possible for them to call? I don't know if the attorney could advise. Oh, wait, hang on a second. He's trying again to join the meeting right now.
Hello.
There you go.
Good
Yeah,
evening, Mr. Fezza.
Sorry.
That's okay. Could you just give us your name and address and spell your last name for the record, please?
Christopher Fezza, 6 Ray Lane, Smithtown, New York. F as in Frank, E-Z-Z-A.
Okay, thank you. Would you like Mr. Monastery to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Mr. Fezza would like to maintain a doghouse on his side yard, which does not meet the side yard requirement. We're asking for 0.67 feet to the existing side yard on the west side. Mr. Fezza is a police officer in the Suffolk County Police Department in the K-9 division. And he's required to keep his K-9 with him at all times. His partner, the K-9, is an extremely highly trained German Shepherd named Thor. His doghouse is a non-permanent structure. And if anybody was able to see it, or at least see the pictures that I've submitted, this is definitely one of the nicest dog houses constructed, extremely well maintained, extremely well cleaned. The dog is not the type of dog that sits in the backyard and barks. Like I said, this is a very highly trained canine. The Fezzers have a beautiful backyard, which has been finished with the pool, and as you can see, an outdoor kitchen, paved area, and a small grassy area, again, on the west side. It's difficult to place that pretty much anywhere else. It is mobile in essence that it's not a permanent structure. It is on gravel, which is well drained. If or when that time comes that Chris is no longer with the K-9 division or with his partner, it can be removed. It cannot be really converted into a shed, as you can see what it is. It has a gated area and then a very small training and accessible access. Right, so you'll see on the east side where you'll see where the gate is. Well, the gate is actually on the east and south side. Additionally, even though the height of the unit itself, the only thing you can see over the fence is the dark shingled roof itself. You don't even actually see the dog house itself. There is a small storage area and then an indoor kennel area, which is relatively small, just enough to fit the dog himself. As far as any, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Chair.
No, I was just waiting for you. I thought you were done.
As far as any desirable changes to the neighborhood, I mean, this doesn't affect anything in the neighborhood whatsoever. Again, it's not a permanent structure. There's benefit in other ways. I mean, it would unbenefit anyone to place that into the middle of the yard, especially the occupants themselves. It's not intrusive in any way. If they were to slide it further off of the property line or fence line, it would block the flow into the backyard, although that is not the main flow. There's the other side of the house. It's definitely not substantial in any means. I can't see any adverse effect. Matter of fact, if this was my neighbor, I would love to have the two of them living next door to me. And although it is self-created by the owner, location-wise in the yard, it would be very difficult to place it anywhere else that wouldn't be right on top of their entertainment and pleasure areas.
Okay, do you have anything else to add?
I don't, sir.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Anyone in the audience like to have any questions or comments?
Yes, I have Keith Weidman who would like to speak.
Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Good evening. Yes. You want to state your name and spell your last name and give your address for the record, please?
Yes, Keith Weidman, 900 Old Nichols Road, Hop Pod. Just a couple of questions for the neighbors, the Joseph. First of all, officer, thank you for your service if you're out there. Second of all, just a question. Is it too much to ask just for the kind of police dog, the breed?
Sure. It's actually a German Shepherd, sir.
Okay. And the kitchen looks real nice too. What is it, basically a barbecue grill and a sink?
Could they put that back up? So basically, yes, you're correct. It's got a grill area and then just an entertainment kind of eating area.
Great, thank you. We have no problem with it at all.
Okay, thank you very much. Nicole, anyone else have any questions or concerns?
No, Chairman, I do not see anybody else with their hands raised.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that being said, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
That being said, case is closed.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18504, Douglas and Holly Wall, 10 Marion's Lane, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the terminus of Marion's Lane and Brookfield Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard from 60 feet to 55 feet for 28 existing ground-mounted solar panels, to increase the maximum height from 15 feet to 24 feet for an existing 608 square foot detached garage, increase the maximum driveway slope from 8% to 13%, which is existing, permit environmentally sensitive lands, that would be slopes greater than 15%, to be altered, to increase the maximum floor area ratio of the lot from 20% to 22% due to the environmentally sensitive land, to reduce the front yard from 60 feet to 0 for an existing 6-foot fence, to reduce the minimum setback of an existing 4-foot retaining wall, wall B on the sketch, from the east side property line from 4 feet to 1 foot, to permit structures within 100 feet of the top of the bluff.
Okay, we have the applicant.
Vincent Tremarco, 1038 West Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown, New York. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing this afternoon to the planning department. You can see on the map submitted and up on the screen, the property is probably an average of 710 feet long. The topographical map was also submitted, and there is a difference between the front of the property and the rear of more than 60 feet as it slopes down to Long Island Sound. So the first variance to permit an accessory structure is their solar panels, and you can see those to the basically the left of the property, and they are connected or bolted to the ground. It's just a way of supplementing the electricity for the premises, and I won't get into solar panels. You know what happens. They use them, they sell the whatever little electricity they make back to LIPA. So the next variance to permit fences higher than 4 feet in the required front yard, reduce front yard from 60 feet to 0. Again, you can look at that property. It shows the fence, and the property next door is used to be owned by Longbotham. There were a lot of variances done there years ago, and we don't believe that fence has any effect on the people that live in that Longbotham compound, which I believe was subdivided. The variance to increase driveway slope from 8% to 13%. Well, obviously the reason for that is as you get to the garage and the residence itself, you're probably going almost halfway down the property. And as I said, the slope is approximately a little better than 60 feet. So you would have an increase in the grade of the driveway from the allowable 8%, 13%. But again, it's a very long driveway, so in one sense, it compensates for the increase in the slope. But actually, there was no other way to do this other than, I guess, massive retaining walls, which wouldn't make any sense. Variance to increase the height of the existing detached garage from 15 feet to 24 feet. Again, you can see the property is a pretty long piece. It's 176 feet wide, and we don't believe that the garage in this setting would have any effect on the character of the area. As you can see, it's a few hundred feet back from the street, maybe, I don't know, 300 feet or so. So, and as the property slopes down, visually, the garage will not look like it's that high, 24 feet. If you look at the grade right by the garage, as opposed to the grade by the street, I believe there is sufficient downgrade that the garage won't look any different than any other garage, if in fact you can even see it from the street. Variance to reduce minimum setback of an existing 4-foot block retaining wall to the east property line from 4 foot to 1 foot. Again, the block retaining wall was necessary based upon the topography of the property. Again, you can see how it goes down rather quickly, even over 700 feet in distance from Marion's Lane all the way to the Long Island Sound. Variance to permit environmentally sensitive land slopes greater than 15%. Again, that's the way the property always was. Nobody changed the grade. And because we have that talks about either depth of groundwater being environmentally sensitive or steep slopes, we have this issue, and we again, ask the board for a favorable consideration on that part of the variance also. You can see the house is set back very far from the street. It appears even from the pictures that if you look at some of the pictures that have been provided, the house is set back far, and there is no massiveness to it, as if it were, you know, the ordinary setback of, let's say, 75 or 100. Well, it would be 100-foot setback, and it certainly would be more consequential than the way it is set up here. Variance to increase FAR of the lot from 20% to 22%. And again, that request is solely because of the environmentally sensitive land, as this board well knows. The environmentally sensitive land, the steep slope part of the land is not counted in when you figure floor area, maximum floor area ratio. However, in real life, if you look at this thing, you know, this property, it's a very large piece, greater than the 1 acre requirement in the area. Finally, variance to permit structures within 100 feet to the top of the bluff. As you can see, there is a paver patio, and there are some other small outbuildings. There's a fire pit, all of which are obviously behind the house, and they do come closer than 100 feet. Again, the property is very large, even for the area. Marion's Lane is a road that runs basically parallel to Long Island Sound, and this property was thought about very much before the house was built, and instead of bringing it closer to the street, it's basically even further than the middle of the property, so there wouldn't be any adverse effect on any of the neighbors. Is it a request that is substantial? Well, yeah, I guess if you look at it and you say, look at all these variances, they might seem substantial. On the other hand, given the size of the property and the terrain of the property, this is probably the best way to develop it and not have an impact on the community. Can it be achieved by some alternative method? No, the property is the property. We didn't change the grade. We did place the house and the accessory structures far back from the road, thereby giving it less of an effect on anyone riding by or any neighbors. Was the difficulty self-created? Well, I guess you could say, yeah, we did some of this work, or most of the work beforehand, but we really didn't have a choice. And the design is, I think, very commendable, and it takes into account the development not only of our property, but of the people who live in the area. And finally, there's really no environmental effect. It more than meets, it's triple or quadruple the health department standard for sanitary flow. As this board knows, any drainage requirements have to contain all water on the property and not have any effect on water draining into the Long Island Sound. So, given the foregoing, we ask the board for its favorable consideration. I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
I had a couple of questions just to clarify. On the fence that you have, 6-foot fence in the front yard from 60 feet to 0, that's referring to the, I believe you said the fence to the west, and that would be just the point, it's on the side property line, not on the front property line. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that was the one. And then similarly on the retaining wall, that the request is to 0 feet on retaining wall B. That's the same thing. The retaining wall butts into the property line, so it doesn't run along the property line. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, we have Blaze in here. Just hold on a second. I believe he has some comments on this one. Hold on, we're just waiting on Blaze.
I don't want to hold anybody up because my video feed is not working right now, but I do want to give the board some information regarding the property and the history of the house. I had a conversation with a couple of my coworkers who actually do the LWRP reviews for the town, and they gave me some information regarding the property. Number one, there were 2 prior LWRP reviews done for the property. One, I believe, in late 2018 or early 2019 for when the proposed house was going to be built. Later on, I believe sometime late 2019, early 2020, there was a second review done for the replacement of the existing seawall. It was in disrepair and needed to be replaced. I was told that a number of items that are currently on the property, such as the structures that are in the backyard within 100 feet of the top of the bluff, are also within 100 feet of the water line. You can't see that on this survey, but when you look at maps that we have in the office, it clearly delineates where the 100-foot setback to the high water line would be, and the 100-foot setback from the top of the bluff. All of the structures that are in the rear yard, such as the paver patio, the footbridge, the wood retaining wall, and a portion of the extension of the paver patio in the back, are all within the 100 feet of the top of the bluff and the top of the 100 feet of the water line. And that would not be something that, upon an LWRP review, would be found to be consistent. Secondly, there was some issues regarding placement of the shed and the pool in the backyard. My understanding was that it did meet a consistency determination from the prior application. However, it does seem that the applicant has actually shifted the pool and the shed. I believe we're looking at this westward, so I'm not really sure if that's also included within that 100 feet, although preliminarily it doesn't look like it is. The biggest issue that is really going on here, because of the addition of the cabana, the detached garage, and the shed in the backyard, is that the LWRP permits this particular property, or any property really of this size, within the boundaries of the LWRP, a maximum of approximately 8,026 square feet of habitable floor area. When you review the applicant's plans for the existing home, for the garage, for the cabana, and for the shed, they have approximately 10,093 square feet of habitable space.
I'm sorry, what was the number? 10,000?
10,093.
Thank you, sorry.
So there, it's roughly, 20 to 22, 23% above what the LWRP permits in terms of floor area ratio. Again, that may be something that may be not found to be consistent with the policies of the LWRP. That's really about it.
Okay. Well, do we want to, I guess we'll get some comments unless you want to address that now, Mr. Tremarco?
Well, I'd like to address the last thing that Blaze indicated. If it violates the LWRP standards, I'm not sure as to why the building department didn't put that on the denial with respect to, the LWRP being 10,000 as opposed to, if Blaze's numbers are correct, 8,000 square feet. And I think that's in the purview finally within the building department. And so I don't know. That's a question that I think, at least as far as building is concerned, and they're the ones that ultimately issue the COs, would have had to require a variance because of the alleged increase in square footage.
I think I can answer that in part, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. I believe that what happened with the denial from the building department is that they mistakenly are saying that the property exceeds the permitted FAR for the zoning district because of the environmentally sensitive land. And that's actually not correct. The issue is not the FAR as far as a zoning standpoint goes. The FAR is really the issue as far as the LWRP is concerned. And I mean, technically, if you could say it should be corrected, yes, but I think it's addressing the same issue, except it's addressing it in a different part of the code, as opposed to being in 322.9B. It's in the section of the code that addresses the LWRP determination. So I think that's what happened with the building denial letter, is that it was not correctly identified as a floor area issue for the LWRP. It was mistakenly identified as a floor area ratio issue for the 322 area considerations.
So, Mr. Chairman, Vincent Tremarco again, either the building department made a mistake or the planning department is making a mistake. And I say that respectfully. We can only go by what the building department tells us is not in compliance. So I think to speculate what the building department did or didn't do is kind of after the fact.
I agree with you. I'm wondering if it might make the most sense to keep the case open rather than close it and have a different determination come out of building, and we'll get back with building and find out what the actual, because I don't see anywhere on here where the square footage is listed, so we wouldn't know. I mean, obviously building would have to add up all the square footage of the structure, the garage, the cabana, and the shed.
I can give you that information if you want that, if you want to know square footages. It was
I don't necessarily know that matters for our purposes, other than if there's something missing in the call of the meeting, we would have to have that fixed, because we obviously can't grant what we're not asked for.
Right. I don't think that the zoning ordinance, though, needs to grant a variance from an LWRP limitation. They need to grant a variance from a lot area or FAR requirement within the zoning ordinance. And actually, the applicant meets the floor area ratio requirements for the R43 zoning district, even minusing out the environmentally sensitive land and the land towards the north that's part of the 100-foot setback to the water line and the 100-foot setback to the top of the bluff. Even when you take all that out, the applicant has roughly 100,000 square feet of buildable lot area. He has a total amount of square footage for everything that's existing of just over 10,000 square feet. So he's roughly at 10%, whereas in the zoning ordinance, he's permitted 20% of buildable lot area. So it's not a question of The building, it's not a question of, 322.9B zoning requirements. It's a question of the LWRP.
So I guess what you're saying is there's something on, like the structures that fall within 100 feet of the high water mark and or the top of the bluff, if that's found to be inconsistent with the LWRP, that would come back before our board, or
they would just find it inconsistent, unless the board grants the applicant a variance for what he's requesting. He's requesting a variance for structures within that 100 feet. If the board were to grant that variance, then the LWRP would find that consistent.
but they're not asking for that.
Yeah, actually they are. They're asking for structures be permitted within 100 feet of the top of the bluff.
So, and that covers everything.
Just about everything, yes. There's probably about 10 square feet of the paver patio in the rear yard that's actually inside the 100-foot line for the water line, but it's about 10 square feet. That's it.
Okay. All right. So we can proceed. If you're comfortable with that, Mr. Tremarco, we'll ask if there's any questions or concerns from the audience, and then are you okay with us closing the hearing?
Yes, and just as an aside, if it's 10 square feet on a brick paver patio, that's a problem. I guess I could implore my client to take away 10 square feet of that paver patio.
Okay. So what we'll do is I'm going to ask Nicole if we have anyone in the audience that would like to be heard.
I do have somebody with their hand up. Mr. Nicholas Pinch, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Pitch. You want to state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the record, please?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, board and fellow neighbors. My name is Nicholas Pitch, Nicholas. Last name is Pitch, Pitch. I and my father, we own the adjacent property to the west, which is 12 Marion's Lane. And there were the neighbors of 10. The subject discussion for tonight.
Okay, want to tell us what concerns are?
Thank you. And I had a couple of questions. I don't know the protocol. I'm a newbie at this. I don't know if I ask them all at one time or I ask one at a time.
You would ask all of your questions, and then we'll see if anyone else in the audience has questions, and then we'll try to track them all, and then Mr. Tremarco will address them all afterwards.
Okay, some of these questions I'm asking on behalf of my dad. My dad is a 90-year-old Korean War veteran. He's not feeling well. He's had some recent hospital stays, so some of the questions are from him, some are from myself, but we both own the properties here. So if that's okay, I'd like to ask some of these questions now, if I may.
Fire away.
Okay, thank you. The first question is this, coming from the neighborhood aspect, I guess when they initially went to build this residence, I guess these outbuildings and this detached garage were not part of that application?
I believe that's correct, but we can ask Mr. Tremarco.
Okay, that's my question because, it seems
I'm still working here.
the good questions the variances for things that were done after the fact. And if that's, and this is newly constructed house, I guess they were done at the same time. I guess, did the town discover them when they were being built, or is it after the fact?
Blaze, do you have any insight on that?
My understanding is that the applicant submitted a request for a certificate of occupancy on the house. And I'm assuming that at the time of inspection, it was discovered by the building inspector or inspectors that there were additional items that did not have building permits.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, understood. And the second to the bottom item on the 8 items applied for a variance for tonight, the second from the bottom, which says increase the maximum FAR from 1 to 22%. What is that, please? If you explain that to myself.
FAR is actually floor area ratio. And what that does is if you would take a property, let's use simple numbers, a property of 10,000 square feet, if you had a 2,200 100 square foot building on it, that would be 22%. So it's basically the ratio of floor area of the structure to the size of the lot. This application is a bit unique in that it has environmentally sensitive land, so the numbers are a bit deceiving. Even though they're asking for 22%, the lot is substantially larger than that. But for the sake of the Smithtown building ordinance, the area that is of steep slopes, they're removed from the calculation. So the numbers are only calculated based on the area that is left after you remove all the steep slopes. So it is a bit deceiving for this particular case.
Okay, understood. And the last question, it's not really a yes or no answer for this one. It's just, my dad had a question on this. My dad's been a resident here for well over probably 50 years. He's probably one of the one of the original oldies. And, recently there's been a lot of construction in the area. And, his question is this, it doesn't mean to be leading or not, but he just wants to understand, the modernization of the area. If these, in his opinion, these substantial items are granted, I guess, say that the lot next door, 2 buildings over, are also sold and they're flipped. I mean, these people would have a conduit to do similar actions?
We'll ask Mr. Tremarco, but I believe you're speaking to the instance of creating a precedent. Okay, we'll ask Mr. Tremarco that question. Anything else?
That's all we have at this point.
Okay, we'll bring Mr. Tremarco back after we check if there's anyone else that has concerns, and we'll make sure he addresses those questions.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nicole, do we have anyone else?
Chairman, no, I don't have anybody else with their hand up, although there were a few people who came in late. Just going to remind folks one more time, if you wish to be heard, you can utilize the chat function or raise your hand function. If you're on a phone, it's *9 to raise your hand. But Chairman, I do not have anybody else with their hands raised or in the chat for this application.
Okay, Mr. Tremarco, would you care to address Mr. Pitch's concerns, please?
Well, I'll try. It's been said many times that all real estate is unique, and each parcel has its own uniqueness and properties. And so for property, and I'm not sure if the gentleman is talking about what was Longbottom's piece or any large piece. Yes, if an applicant came in and asked for certain variances, the board most likely would first look at the property itself and what characteristics that property has with respect to the variances requested. And yes, an applicant would look to an existing situation, such as Mr. Wall's and Mrs. Wall's property, to show that variances were granted. And if those variances were the same, the board is not required to follow that precedent, but it is a precedent, and only the board could tell you whether they would, how much weight they would give in any given situation. That's my best answer, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. You also had a question regarding, I guess, the timeline about these structures that may or may not have been part of the original building application.
I think that Blaze did, the investigation there, and I think that's what happened. They built the house, and then there were some other structures that a permit was not applied for.
Okay, thank you. If you have nothing else to add, I'll entertain a motion. Did you have anything else, Mr. Tremarco?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Case is closed. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18505, Stephanie Contos, 207 Cambon Avenue, St. James. The location of the property is the east side of Cambon Avenue, 776 feet south of Woodlawn Avenue. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the total side yards from 34 feet to 26 feet for a proposed 510 square foot addition, adding to a lawful non-conforming structure.
Do we have Mr. Morbillo here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Good
I'm also
evening.
here with the owner, who's going to authorize me to speak on her behalf.
All right. Can you please state your name and address and spell your last name for the record, please?
Hi, yes, good evening. Stephanie Contos, Kontos, at 207 Cambon Avenue in St. James, New York, 11780.
Thank you. And would you like Mr. Morbillo to speak on your behalf?
Yes, completely, please.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Michael Morbillo. My firm is Nspire Design Group. My last name is spelled M as in Michael, O-R-B as in boy, I-L-L-O. My address is 273 Lake Avenue, St. James, New York. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the application before you this evening is for a one-story addition to an existing one-story residence, which is on it's a existing non-conforming lot. Presently, there is an existing setback on the south side of the property, which is 7.4 feet. And there is an existing setback on the north side of the property of 20.4 feet. We're doing a master bedroom addition on the northeast side of the residence. And we are following the line of the existing residence, which is giving a sort of a slightly diminishing the existing setback. But I would say that the diminishing setback is de minimis. It's a very small amount. There's really no other place in order to put this addition onto the house due to the configuration, the layout, and the layout of the property. Certainly, we'd want to place this on the side of the house that has a wider side yard, and that was one of the factors. The request is not substantial. Again, we're not increasing anything is there, but on the surface, it's a 23% reduction in the total side yards. It will not have an impact on the neighborhood, on the character of the neighborhood, nor on the environment. And the conditions of the property were not self-created by the applicant. And if the board has any questions at this time, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I'll ask anyone on the board have any questions?
Oh, thank you.
All right, planning, any questions or concerns?
No, thank you.
All right, Nicole, we have anyone in the audience that would like to be heard?
No, Chairman.
All right. Unless you have anything else, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move. Second.
Regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, case is closed. Thank you, Mr. Morbillo.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18506, Catherine Wernick Cavalieri, 4 Harlequin Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property is the east side of Harlequin Drive, 110 feet south of Mallard Lane. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 50 feet to 45 feet for a proposed 97 square foot front portico addition.
All right, do we have Mr. O'Connell?
Yes, sir, I'm here. My client should be on the line as well.
All right, perfect. And your previous client, you want to do both, right? One
I'll do
after
both.
the other?
Yep, there, I got them, so they should be there.
Okay, perfect. So do we have Mrs. Cavalier?
Yes.
All right, you want to give us your name and address and Spell your last name for the record, please.
Yes, Catherine Cavalieri, Cavaliere, for Harlequin.
Thank you very much. And would you like Mr. O'Connell to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
All right, Mr. O'Connell, go ahead.
All righty, thank you. For the record, my name is Todd O'Connell, architect, doing business at 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York, architect for the Cavalieris. This particular application was before you approximately, let's say, maybe 2 months ago or so. It was approved, and the actual design of the home was submitted. Nothing has changed, but when the denial was written, the portico itself was actually missed. We haven't changed the design of the house nor added any square footage, but the setback for the portico was not written up in the denial, and that yielded a 45-foot front yard setback. So we're here strictly for the portico itself. The portico could not be achieved in any other method. Obviously, it's nice to have some protection over the front door. You can see the house is beautiful. It adds character to the neighborhood. This doesn't cause any negative environmental impacts. And to get protection over the door, there is no other way to go with this. It is the only method to come before you with the variance, as the existing front of the home is at the required point. So we feel it's a de minimis request. It is an open structure to remain open, and feel that it would be, really add some value to the neighborhood as well. Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, planning, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Anyone in the audience, Nicole?
No, Chairman.
All right. That being said, we'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move. Second.
All right, regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, case is closed. So we'll move on to your first case, which Blaze, I believe, is 18501.
Yes. Case number 18501, Thomas Fagan, 336 Second Avenue, St. James. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Second Avenue and Railroad Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard on Second Avenue from 40 feet to 37 feet, to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 24 feet for a proposed 1,126 square foot, two-story addition consisting of 438 square feet of first floor, 312 square feet of second floor, and 376 square feet of attached garage.
And do we have Mr. Fagan?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Fagan.
Good evening, board.
Could you give us your name and address for the record, and please spell your last name?
Name is Thomas Fagan, F-A-G-A-N. I reside at 336 Second Avenue in St. James.
All right, thank you. And would you like Mr. O'Connell to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. O'Connell.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Again, for the record, my name is Todd O'Connell, architect, doing business at 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York, architect for the Fagans, located at 336 Second Avenue. To give you a little history of what the Fagans are looking to accomplish here is mainly, as they're getting older in age, they're trying to get a master suite on the lower level. So you don't have to go up and down the stairs, but yet they enjoy on their property having a garage. Garage is extremely important to them. They like to keep their vehicles in the garage, and he likes to have a little room for storage. So he's trying to get more of the home on the ground level for their later years in life. Unfortunately, this parcel in doing that requires a couple reliefs. The first is this is a corner parcel. So we have two front yards. The yard opposite the shorter street frontage, being Railroad Avenue, is considered the rear yard, but that is actually the neighbor's side yard. So that is the direction where we're building. So where we're requesting a rear yard setback of 24 feet, where 50 foot's required, that's actually, if you were to stand at the front of the home, that is a side yard in that area, as the Fagans would think of it. The neighboring home is actually only 7 foot on that particular side, but yet, we still have the side yard that most homes in that neighborhood would have between homes. The front yard on 2nd Avenue yields an existing 37-foot front yard, and that's to the ground floor. In all actuality, the 2nd floor cantilevers out, so the 2nd floor actually sits at 35 feet. We're maintaining this structure to be in line with the existing ground floor of the residence, yielding a 37-foot front yard setback. 40 foot is what's existing, but we're just looking to maintain what's already there. We're not making it any worse. That's the way the house was originally developed. We didn't create that situation. That's just where the home was placed when it was originally built. We don't feel that this is going to have any negative impact on the character of the neighborhood because it conforms with all the side yards that would be on all the adjacent homes in the neighborhood. So to create this addition in any other fashion would be very, very difficult. They're looking to put a master on the 1st floor. No matter where I go with this, it would be a variance. If I go to the rear, I'm taking away their decks or their enclosed porch, things that they enjoy on the 1st floor. So going in this direction was really the only option to create the space that they would need for a master suite. There's no negative environmental impact. In fact, it's, if anything, with the new sanitary requirements, we're going to benefit the environment by building this space. With that, I'd love to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Okay. The only question I have, just to clarify, the addition is going, I guess, what would be to the south of the structure?
Correct. That's correct.
And the existing rear yard setback is existing at 24 feet or close to 24 feet. Is that correct?
No, the rear yard setback, this addition is in its entirety into the rear yard.
Oh, I see. Because of the fact that it's a corner lot, you're considering
Because it's a corner lot, right.
Okay.
Otherwise, if it was considered a side yard, we would not be before you.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No one? Blaze, planning have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, Nicole, how about anyone in the audience?
No, Chairman.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Regularly moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, case is closed. Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Mr. Fagan, have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
For your time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, now. Blaze, I hope you know where we are.
I do know where we are, yes. The next case on the agenda is case number 18508, Daniel Quigley, 6 Evan Lane, St. James. The location of the property, the south side of Evan Lane, 184 feet west of Moriches Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 34 feet for an existing 326 square foot front porch.
We have the applicant.
Yes, good evening. Eric, if you want to be architect of record.
Good evening. Do we have the applicant or a power of attorney?
I believe that was
There was no power of attorney submitted.
No.
the owner of the property is on the call.
Oh, perfect. Can we have, is it Mr. Quigley first?
I'm here.
Hi, Mr. Quigley. Yes. Would you give us your name and address for the record and please spell your last name?
Yes, Daniel Quigley, Quigley, 6 Yvonne Lane, St. James.
Good evening. Would you like Mr. Bjornaby to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Hi, good evening to the board.
Did you get the spelling of his last name? I'm sorry.
No, can you put that on the record?
Yes, my name is Eric Bjorneby. It's Bjorneby, architect, 4250 Veterans Memorial Highway, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. So my client's house actually burned down last fall, and we're designing a new building. And during the construction of the new building, they decided that they wanted to put on a front porch. There was a misunderstanding, and they ended up building the front porch before we could come before the board seeking a variance. The project was stopped during construction, and so we are here seeking for the variance for the front porch. There's an open garage, so basically we're doing a roof over that goes across the entire front of the house. On the east side of the property is the garage enclosure, so there's a roof over that encompasses the entrance to the garage. Adjacent to that is a roof over. If you look on the drawing that's being shown on the screen right now, there's a dotted line that's behind right there that shows the existing 2-foot bump out from the existing structure. So even though this survey calls out for the 42.1 front yard setback, the actual front yard setback is 40.1, and we're proposing to encroach into that 6 feet. So there would be a 34.1 foot proposed setback. On the west side of the property, and from the entrance, which is centrally located towards the west of the property, would be a roof over porch that would be proposed there. If you want to show that next slide. So this is the proposed front of the structure. So you can see there on the left-hand side, which is the east side of the property, would be the garage, and then the rest of it is a structure that's for the roof over porch. The requirement again is 40 feet. It's an R10 zone. It's a 40-foot requirement, and we're going 6 feet into that, which is what I feel is to be the minimum for a usable front porch, which you can see from the front entrance pretty much over is what that would be. In the past, I actually know the neighborhood very well. My in-laws actually live on an angle at number 5 Yvonne Lane, which I had previously in the past gotten them a variance for the same exact roof over, which they ended up not building, but 2 years prior, we got the same exact variance. So, but this is what the proposed structure is right now. Again, the house was burned down last fall, severe fire damage, and we're putting up an addition on the existing foundation and going 2 stories up and then coming off at the front porch.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, what was the thought process to raise the house 4 feet off the ground?
I'm sorry?
Nothing. That was somebody who took their phone off of mute.
Oh, okay. Planning, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, thank you.
All right, Nicole, do we have anyone in the audience that would like to have any comments or questions?
I do not have anybody with their hands raised or in the chat, but I just want to make sure that Paul, that wasn't you looking to speak. Give him a second. Paul.
She's asking to
Yeah. I have one question.
Before you begin, sorry, go ahead, Chairman.
Could you just state your name and address for the record, and please spell your last name?
Paul Cona, C-O-N-A. Address is 3 Ebon Lane.
Okay. You want to tell us what your questions or concerns are?
The question I have is, what was the thought process that they raised the house 4 feet higher than what the original structure was that burnt down?
Okay, we'll ask the applicant and they'll get us an answer. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Nicole, do we have anyone else?
Chairman, no, I do not have anybody else with their hands up.
Okay, Mr. Bjornaby, I guess you heard his question. If you could just address that, please.
Yeah, so the existing foundation, so my client had been in the building, in the house for a little while. The existing basement, I believe, was a 7-foot ceiling. They raised it up 2 feet. So it's not 4 feet. They just raised it up 2 feet so that they can have a 9-foot ceiling in the basement, so that minus the ductwork that was running through there, they would have an 8-foot ceiling. So basically, they were trying to gain an 8-foot ceiling in the basement.
Okay, and just to clarify, the structure is still below the required height.
Yes, it does not require variance for height. It still meets the code requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless you have anything else to add, or that's good?
That's good.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
All right, regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that case is closed. Moving on. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18406, MJ Industries LLC, 27 Montclair Avenue, St. James. The location of the property, the east side of Montclair Avenue, 745 feet south of Rutherford Street. The property is owned LI. The applicant is requesting a special exception to maintain outdoor storage in the LI zoning district, a special exception to maintain a trucking station, a variance of a special exception standard to increase the amount of outdoor storage from 1 times the gross floor area to 8.4 times. A variance of a special exception standard to reduce the setback of outdoor storage from all streets and residence districts from 100 feet to 0. A variance of a special exception standard to eliminate the required densely planted tree and shrub in the required 100-foot buffer. A variance of a special exception standard to increase the maximum height of outdoor storage from 6 feet to 20 feet. A variance of a special exception standard that requires a trucking station to have a densely planted buffer at least 50 feet deep to any residence district. A variance of a special exception standard that prohibits fuel storage above ground. Variance to reduce the front yard setback on Montclair Avenue from 50 feet to 15 feet for existing fences, walls, and outdoor storage. To reduce the front yard setback on Harvard Street, which is a paper street, from 50 feet to 0 for existing fences, walls, outdoor storage, and sheds. A variance to reduce the parking setback from the south property line from 6 feet to 0, to increase the height of a retaining wall from 6 feet to 11 feet. A variance to reduce the setback of a 6-foot wall from the top of an 11-foot retaining wall from 11 feet to 0. A variance to increase the height of, the variance to increase the height of a 6-foot fence on top of an 11-foot retaining wall from 6 feet to 17 feet. A variance to reduce the minimum setback of an existing 6-foot retaining wall from any lot line from 6 feet to 0. A variance to eliminate the required landscape islands in required parking areas. A variance to increase the height of an accessory structure, a truck garage, from 18 feet to 30 feet.
Jeez.
Right. Do we have the applicant?
I'm here, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you
The
give us your
client's
name?
also here. I believe he'll give me permission. I don't know if he's unmuted his camera. John, are you there?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay.
Okay, can you give us your name and address for the record, and please spell your last name?
John Savastano, Savastano, 3 Saddle Lane, St. James, New York.
Okay, and would you like this gentleman to speak? Is it Mr.
LeBate?
LeBate. Would you like Mr. LeBate to speak on your behalf?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. LeBate, you want to give us your name and address? Just spell your last name, please.
It's L-A-B, B as in boy, A-T-E. My firm is at 273 Hawkins Avenue in Ronkonkoma. And my full name is Christopher LeBabe. Good afternoon, or actually good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're here today for the subject application, MJ Industries. We are seeking 2 special exemptions for maintaining outdoor storage in the L1 zoning district and to maintain a trucking station. We are requiring at this time 15 variances for various site improvements on site. Now, I understand working with staff that the board is very familiar with this property, so I will answer questions at the end of the presentation, but I'd just like to go over a brief history of the property. The property is approximately a little over 6 acres without counting the paper streets, Byron, Hoe, and Harvard Street, and is zoned L1. The property is designated in an L1 industrial area dating back to the 50s. The current uses on this site are keeping in use what allowed historic uses of the project. These uses are common in this area with surrounding properties such as car dealerships, storage yards, landfill, and a concrete plant adjacent to the south. There is residential zoning to the north with all vacant lots that are adjoining the site. The current property owners purchased the property south of Harvard Street approximately 16 years ago, which is approximately half the site, and the current property north of Harvard Street approximately 10 years ago. The owners each have been in their businesses for over 31 years, and owning the site have improved the site conditions and cleaned it up. They've made several town applications and made a significant effort at great expense to legalize these site issues. The special exemptions and variances sought here today are required for their businesses. Though over the years, while businesses have grown, the basic nature of the business has stayed the same. The subject site within the area of the L1 industrial.
O1? O1 industrial?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does not negatively impact any of the neighboring properties. The variances and special exceptions being requested will not change or expand the businesses, but permit the continuation of a long-established business that provides services and jobs to the community. The north end of the property is split zone with R21 residential, and the operation has crossed over that line and within the residential zoning. This existed before my client purchased the property. The land adjoining is residential, but it is vacant, and as such, it's gone unnoticed. There hasn't been one complaint about the site since the owners have taken over pertaining to that. The residential zoned area will be reverted back to natural buffer with a variance for setback from the property line. The concrete hopper or the concrete manufacturing has stopped on site, even though the property owners have a pre-existing permit.
I need you to slow down when you're reading, please.
Okay.
Stopped on site.
Stopped on site.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Yes.
All right. Even though the property owners have a pre-existing permit for the site, it has been determined to abandon this use and the hopper to be removed. In seeking these reliefs, we would like to summarize that these variances and special exemption will not produce a negative impact to adjacent properties in the surrounding area, prevent the orderly and reasonable use of permitted or legally established uses in the district within the uses are located, adversely affect the health, safety, welfare, comfort, and convenience or order to the town, or that this use will be in harmony with and promote the general purposes intent of this chapter. It is my opinion that the businesses should continue because they are clearly pre-existing uses with non-conforming setbacks. They are a combination hybrid between old and new principal sections of the code. We understand that over time, sites and changes all change, and the uses, change with implemented town code and new regulations. So it raises the question, what do you do with a site like this? The owners have been in business for over 30 years with no complaints since they took over these properties relating to the nature of their businesses. The concrete manufacturing is to be removed, the residential area to be revegetated, and proper abandonment of the existing paper streets. I've reviewed the staff's recommendations with the client, and we do agree to number 1, number 3, and number 4. On recommendation number 2, we would like to make it clear there is no sand mining on site, only screening to recycle the materials from which the client has obtained a state DEC permit to perform. Recommendation number 5, we'll have to work with the staff on the various variances being sought. So if we adjourn to September, that should be a reasonable amount of time to discuss the differences and revisions we could do to the site. At this time, I'd like to try and answer any questions the board has for this application. The client is also available for questions.
I think planning has prepared a bit of a timeline presentation for the site to kind of give us a little bit of insight to the historical use of the site and as it relates to the town code. Matt, are you going to do that? So I think it might make sense for us to kind of hear planning's timeline, and then we'll open it up to the board for any questions that may come out of it.
Okay. So just to give the board some brief history on the site, the photographs that you will see on the screen were actually a part of the planning advisory report that Mr. LeBate referred to in his presentation. And it does outline, from what we can tell, an aerial representation of how the site has grown throughout the years. If you look at the aerial photograph that's currently on the screen, you'll see that in 1957, the site started out with a single-family home and detached garage on the site. Moving forward over the years, going to 1961, 1962, there was an application made to the Board of Appeals for an interpretation whether cement batching, which it was referred to at that time, was permitted in the LI zoning district, which the board did approve. They granted the interpretation in favor of the cement batching. By 1966, 68, there was a fully functioning cement manufacturing plant on site. And you can see that larger portion of the site was cleared from 1957. To note, in 1966, there was a zoning ordinance amendment that prohibited any improvements or uses on properties without the benefit of a site plan. Going to 1968, the zoning ordinance was again amended, and it actually prohibited cement batching in the LI zoning district. In 1973, we had another amendment to the zoning ordinance that required all non-conforming uses. In this case, it would have been the cement batching to obtain a certificate of existing use. 1976, we find that, I'm sorry, I lost my place. In 1976, if we can go to that aerial, Matt, do we have one for 76?
I don't, but I could pull it up.
We can go to 1980, it's fine, they're probably very similar. So in 1980, you can see that the site has now been cleared north of the original location, and we're now encroaching onto the paper street known as Harvard Street. By 1984, there were some additions made to the property, that being a 4-bay addition on the south end of the property as a 2,500 square foot commercial garage. 1988, I don't know if we have that, Matt. Do we have an 88 aerial or something to go with that?
No, not from 88.
Okay. So where do we go from 1980, just so I know where we're at? That's it, huh?
Aerial I have.
Okay. So we'll just fast forward. Going through the 1980s and the 1990s, the site was expanded north of Harvard Street. It was expanded onto residentially zoned properties. By 2006, the site was fairly well developed north of Harvard Street onto the other two paper streets, Bryant and Hoe. And in 2008, the owner of the property made an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals for CEUs for the cement batching plant and a special exception for a trucking station and to maintain all of the non-conforming uses that had been on the site since 2001. At that time, there was a pos deck issued and the board adopted it in 2009, and the application was denied in July of 2013. Since that time, there has been a little bit more encroachment to the north. As you can see, if you look at the aerial photograph that's on the screen now, we are north of the zoning boundary line, which is the red dotted line going across the property. And you can see that all of the land north of that line is all the residentially zoned property that is now containing the encroachments for the clearing, for the material processing. And if you look to the northwest corner, you can also see that there's some outdoor storage as well. In our planning advisory report, we did make recommendations, as Mr. Lebate made reference to, regarding abandonment of the paper streets. We did say that we believed that there is sand mining and processing going on at the site. However, Mr. Lebate said that that is not the case. And a few other recommendations as well. If the board wants a little more clarification, I can do that, unless you want to just move to having some of the residents speak, or even Mr. Lebate give us a little bit more information about what the applicant proposes to do.
Well, I think the best course right now would be to give the board, now that you have kind of a timeline from planning and the presentation from the applicant, maybe if there's any questions that the board may have, and then we can go back and ask Mr. Lebate to kind of address those.
Okay.
Anyone on the board have questions or concerns or comments regarding either planning's presentation or the applicant's presentation?
Not at this time.
I guess my only question would be with respect to the residential lots to the north. It appears, even though that there's encroachment there, are those in ownership, the same ownership as the lots that are currently to the south?
Does my client own them? No. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering, how does it turn out that there's, you know, a significant encroachment? Is that property owned by the client, or is it just another person's property that the applicant is
No,
on?
he doesn't own it at such time, but I know he had discussions with the property to acquire it. That hasn't happened yet. I don't have the full details. One thing I would like to point out, though, we had several discussions with staff about where the zoning line is. And another drawing, you have that one laid over on that design. From what I'm looking at from our site plan, that zoning line is back on his property, but it seems to show on yours that is the property line. Can we put the site plan up?
If you can look on this, that picked, go ahead and pull that last one up, Matt.
Yeah, see how you're showing it? You're showing it now on the screen that the zoning line is basically the southerly property line of those residential lots.
No, well, no, if you look just south, you see the blue line that
Yes.
kind of takes off at a bit of an angle? That is the property line, and the red is the district boundary line.
Mine looks a little more, if you can bring up the site plan, it appears to be, you know, a bit bigger.
Bigger, so you're
There's
saying
more
that
of
the-
a, yeah, there's
that
more
the
of a
property
residential
act-
zoning area on it, you know, on the west side, it looks like. Kind of look like it went the other way on the overlay. So I'm not sure, looking at these two, judging off our survey, I mean, there's definitely encroachment. I just don't think it's as severe as what we're looking at here.
Blaze, can you comment on that?
In looking at the overlay that's on the screen right now, you know, everything is approximate, because when you have an aerial and you take a site plan and you overlay it over the aerial, obviously everything isn't going to line up 100% perfectly, because scales do come into play, and obviously they're going to be different on each item. Again, it is approximate. If you look at the site plan, you can see in the northwest corner, and I believe that this was prepared by Mr. Lebate, that it says approximately 50 feet north of that blue line is, I'm not sure if it's saying that it's property that's owned by the applicant, or if that's the extent of the encroachment onto the adjacent residential property.
So,
But it's
Mr. Lebate, do you have a recent survey that may show? Because I believe that this drawing that's on the screen right now is your site plan overlaid, I guess, onto the.
I think that was the original site plan submitted, and then the zoning line was discussed. We have definitely encroached over it. There's no doubt about that. I'm just trying to clarify really more the impact, and we're all looking to revegetate it. The plan I'm looking at clearly shows it a bit different on the zoning line compared to the property line. I have it on mine, and we'll submit it, but I'm just trying to lessen the impact that we're showing with onto the residential lots. And I don't see it on the left, so. Well, actually, you just had it, but the property line, as you can see, the property line and the zoning line are a bit different from what I got on my site plan.
But in any event, the property line is south of those lots where the encroachment exists.
On this one, on mine, the zoning line is substantially a bit different. On yours, on the west side, along Montclair Avenue, the property line and the zoning line are about even. And as you can see going across, the zoning line then drifts a bit to the north. On the other way, on mine, the zoning line goes the other way.
Right. So can you, well, obviously you've read the planning advisory report, and the way it stands, it appears that we don't have a choice other than to adjourn to a date, hopefully in as soon as possible, but September probably would be the earliest that we could have all of these things addressed. But do you agree that these things need to be kind of brought back into compliance before we kind of look at this application in earnest, as we're dealing with properties that don't even belong to the applicant?
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I just wanted to kind of clarify just the impact of it. That's all. But yes, we definitely have to bring it back into performance.
Okay. So I guess what we'll do is, unless you have anything else to add or any other board members have any questions that may have come up, we'll open it up to see if there's any anyone in the audience who has a comment or concern. Nicole, do we have anyone?
Nope, Chairman, I have nobody with their hands raised. I have no one in the chat.
Okay. So I think, Blaze, did you have anything you wanted to add, or I think we're going to have to adjourn it?
Well, yeah, I think that the applicant needs time to address some of the issues that we raised, primarily, working on getting the paper streets abandoned by the town. That's the place where you have to start. Hopefully that can happen rather quickly. I don't know how long the process is, but I think, 3 or 4 months is probably sufficient. And then addressing some of the other issues, like before coming back to the board in September, working towards getting that residential buffer restored, getting the outdoor storage from that area removed, just making some headway and some strides into bringing the site a little bit more into compliance so that the board has a good point to start with and they can look at it, as you said, in earnest, and hopefully we come up with a good recommendation.
Okay, perfect. So does September work for your client, Mr. Lebate?
Yes.
Okay. What date do we have first or second meeting in September?
I believe it's the 28th of September. I'm just going to double check. It is the 28th.
Okay, so we'll leave this open and we'll see you again on September 28th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. We can move on to the next one.
Yeah, I believe is that CTU?
Yes. The next case on the agenda, case number 18449, CTU Properties of New York, LLC, 64 Smithtown Boulevard, Smithtown, the location of the property, the southwest corner of Smithtown Boulevard and Shepherd Lane. The property is zoned NB. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard from 50 feet to 47 feet for a proposed 77 square foot addition and a 1,824 second floor addition. To reduce the minimum distance for a retaining wall to a lot line from 5 feet to 1 foot for wall A, to reduce the minimum distance for a retaining wall to a lot line from 5 feet to 1 foot for wall B, to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where the slope is greater than 15%, to reduce the minimum parking from 28 to 23 spaces, reduce the minimum required truck loading space from 1 to 0, reduce the front yard parking setback on Shepherd Lane from 6 feet to 1 foot, reduce the rear yard parking setback from 6 feet to 5 feet, reduce the minimum driveway access within parking areas from 24 feet to 20 feet.
All right, do we have, I believe, is it Mr. Tremarco here on this application?
Yes, Mr. Vincent J. Tremarco. I'm getting a back echo.
I think you got to turn your phone off. You have to, it looks like you have two devices on at the same time.
You're right. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, much better.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay.
I don't think you're muted.
I think he's might be frozen. Nope, I can see him.
He's got to turn the volume up because it doesn't appear that he's muted.
Yeah, I think his computer mic's not working.
I would recommend calling back in and mute his computer. I can mute his computer if he calls back in.
Mr. Tremarco, can you hear us? We were so close. Something.
I'm thinking this might be a good place to ask for a 2-minute break.
He's coming in right now.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah. Do you need to take a break?
If I could take just 2 minutes.
Mr. Tremarco, can we just take a 2-minute break to give the reporter's fingers a little break?
I'm supposed to be unmuted. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We're gonna take a 2-minute break just because the court reporter needs to stretch her fingers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Tremarco, sorry about that.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavit of posting to the planning department this afternoon pursuant to your COVID regulations. We've been before the board, I think this is the third time with respect to this application. And we presented all of our arguments in the past 2 meetings. So I'll try and be as brief as possible. The last iteration, with the help of the planning department, I believe was February 22nd, 2020. The planning department helped us with a modification of the site plan. And I believe if Blaze could confirm that February 22nd one of 2021 is the one that planning did and recommends to us. And if that's the case, I've discussed it all with my client, and they've agreed that this is the best way to approach the application. As the board knows, we purchased the side piece of property along Shepherd Lane in order to increase the parking and make our building larger. You can see in the back, I don't think that's the right, no, that's not the
Let's see,
right.
Matt, are you able to pull up the latest modification that planning made? That's the one.
Okay, so there were concern by some of the neighbors of some sort of a buffer between the project and the residential homes behind. And I believe that the way planning has recommended it, where it says preserve existing vegetation, we will keep that as a buffer, and the rest of the parking laid out the way planning recommends. And as I said, my client is fully aware of it. We have discussed this proposed site plan, and we thank the planning board for its hard work on it. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration of this configuration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tremarco. Are there any questions or concerns from anyone on the board?
No, thank you.
Do we still have Steve?
Yep.
Okay. And planning, do you have anything to add?
Nope, just that this is the site plan, the configuration that we recommend.
Okay, and do we have anyone, Nicole, in the audience that wanted to be heard on this?
No, I do not have anyone with their hands raised or in the chat function. Somebody did just join us in the waiting room. I do see Joy Sauer Joy Sawyer who has hit the hand clap button. Sometimes that's an accident. They meant to raise their hand, so I'll give her a second. Joy, did you wish to say something? And if so, could you please state your name and address before you do?
Yes. My name's Joy Sauer, S like in Sam, A-U-E-R, 82 Shepherd.
Okay, you want to tell us your questions or concerns?
Yeah, sure. Good evening to the board. I appreciate being able to speak on this. In the last two meetings, although I was allowed to speak, I don't feel that my questions were answered. And in fairness, I think that was because it's been adjourned. But I just wanted to kind of follow up, and I apologize if this sounds redundant as I go over it. So in the first meeting, Mr. Tremarco mentioned that most of the staff work off-site. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to ask this, but what then is the purpose of increasing the building size to 2-story? You know, again, I'm concerned about Smithtown, Suffolk being built up, looking like Nassau. And there's just plenty of empty large buildings that one could go to if they needed a bigger size building. And if they're saying that most of the work is conducted off-site, I don't see a reason for adding a second story. The biggest concern I have is increasing traffic in this area. Actually, just on this past Saturday, there was an accident on the corner of Shepherd and Smithtown Boulevard. And, you know, I mentioned in the last time that I spoke that years ago, then legislator Kennedy wanted to create a traffic circle in the area, and a traffic survey was conducted. And I wanted to know if the traffic data from that survey was being utilized for this addition. The road is curved, it dips, and when the turn onto Smithtown Boulevard is very deceiving. I don't know if any of the board members live in the area and have, you know, tried taking that turn. It's very deceiving. And there are 3 streets that intersect Smithtown Boulevard and a 7-Eleven within 300 feet. So it's a very busy area, you know, 3 streets and a 7-Eleven and a business within 300 feet. You know, that's very busy. So let's see, sorry, I lost my spot. Just on this picture, I see that it says from the curb, it says 12 inches to wall. So is that 1 feet of vegetation that's being left on from the curb line of Shepherd Lane to the parking lot?
We'll ask the applicant and
Okay.
address that.
Okay. Because if you're building a retaining wall, my concern is also that the anchoring beams for the retaining wall are going to have to be dug under the roadway, you know, in order to be sufficiently installed. So that's a concern. And then also that is the right of way. So the town owns that right of way. So that's if they're going to be building up into a foot to the curb, it's just a little concerning, especially since, like I said, the turn is very deceiving. So on an icy day, if you're turning onto the street, you could easily slip, and then like, are you going down off a retaining wall into a parking lot? That's very dangerous, you know, especially with it, if it's just a foot from the curb to the retaining wall and then a drop off, I'm assuming a 4-foot drop off. I don't feel that that's a safe, you know, situation. And then my last 2 points are, you know, the town arborist coming to evaluate the mature trees that are in the area. Some of them are little, but some of them are mature. And I don't think that cutting down trees for a parking lot is an improvement. I feel like too much of Suffolk and Smithtown is being cut down for building. While I appreciate people's economic, you know, reasons for wanting to build, a lot of the reason that people come out to live in this area is because of the nature. And I think preserving what we have is extremely important. And lastly, sorry for my long thing, is if the Office of Wastewater Management okayed the density on such a small lot for the sewage. And that's all I have. Sorry, that's a long list.
Right, all right. We will get those answers for you. First, we have to see if there's any other residents that wanted to speak.
Yes, I have showing up as Anita's iPhone. Just when you unmute yourself, please state your name, spell it, and give us your address.
Hi, it's Anita DeStefano. I'm at 93 Shepherd Lane, Wisconsin.
Good evening. Could you just spell your last name?
Yes, Distefano.
Thank you.
So I just want to, actually Joy did a pretty good job expressing my concerns. I don't know if anyone from the town really realizes the dangerous corner that it is on Smithtown Boulevard and Shepherd Lane. And increased traffic will make it even more dangerous when you're turning onto Shepherd Lane or turning onto Smithtown Boulevard. It's really a terrible situation on that corner. So that's one of the main points that I wanted to bring out. And also, I came in a little bit late, but I'm a little confused by the diagram because the last meeting, I thought that the town was giving us more space between the curb and the parking lot. And now we're back up to 12 inches, which is, you know, really taking down all the trees and the, you know, the nature of the neighborhood. So I'm not sure why that reverted back to 12 inches. I thought that the town had come up with a compromise to move it in a few more feet. So those are my concerns.
Okay, we'll have the applicant address for you. Was there anything else?
No, that's it, because everything else would have been repeated, because I think that Joyce Sauer did a good job bringing the attention of my concerns also. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll get those answers for you. Nicole, you have anyone else?
I do not.
All right, Mr. Tremarco, we have a few questions. Perhaps you can address their concerns.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's the site plan. If the people on Shepherd Lane would look at that site plan, yes, it's true, from our property line to the parking stalls, it's 1 foot. But additionally, there is the town property, and a distance from our property line to the town property before, in other words, there's a curb, and then there's that space, and then there's our property line. So if the town would permit, and I think they will, we will plant in that area certain vegetation that the Board of Site Plan will tell us what type. This property that abuts Shepherd Lane is zoned neighborhood business. It's not zoned residential. Notwithstanding that, we understand the neighbors' concerns. So that's why we tried to reach a compromise, and I think we did, by preserving a substantial amount of property on the new piece that we bought, which indicates preserve existing vegetation. Yes, it's true, we do have to cut down trees where the parking lot is, but the property is zoned for that use. It is not something that is not permitted. And again, the town looks at what we do, what we plant, how we plant, all of those things. So it's not just us doing what we want to do. As far as zoning, sanitary flow, if need be, we would apply, and I think we might have to apply for a sanitary flow credit, which we are capable of doing by buying same from either the town of Smithtown or from a private person in the town. So that's the way. And if we can't conform to health department requirements, then that's it. We either have to reduce the size of the building or not build at all. We have checked all of this out, and our architect, and basically he is indicating that we might need a sanitary flow credit or half a credit in order to allow us to do the construction. When you get a sanitary credit, it's from a piece of land that then is not built upon and is sterilized and stays natural forever. So given this new site plan, and given the fact that we've all worked hard on it, we think this is the best of the applications, starting from the one we submitted to the second one and now this one. We think it's a great compromise, and we certainly hope to be good neighbors. Also, there was a question about that accountants, this is an accounting business. Yes, they do visit clients, but they also work in the building. They also need file storage. So in order to accommodate their profession, they need this extra space. The parking is now more than adequate. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. Thank you.
I believe, Mr. Tremarco, there was a couple other concerns or comments or questions. One was the height of the retaining wall and what the retaining wall was going to be constructed of.
I believe it's going to be constructed of concrete. Or if the town requires some other use or some other means of construction, we certainly would do that. They may require, I don't think they will, but they may require I don't even know what you call them, concrete block, you know, the decorative block, not the block, not the ordinary cement block. They may require that along that line, and we'd be happy to do that.
And the height, was that, you just had the drawing up. I think it's 5 feet, but you want to?
I can't see it, it's not up. I think it's 5 feet, yes. Yep.
Okay. And then the last one, you may or may not know, I believe Mrs. Sauer had requested, she questioned whether the traffic study that may have been commissioned at some point was used for this application. Do you know anything about that?
No, I do not. I didn't know that Ms. Kennedy commissioned a traffic study. And if so, I assume it would have been submitted to the planning department, but I personally, nor do my clients know of, you know, of that study.
Okay. Thank you. I think that was all of the questions that I had, that the residents had. And I believe we have a seeker now on this one, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I do. Okay.
If anyone has any questions, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Regularly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Case closed. Is that it for this evening?
Chairman, it's Vincent Tremarco. I have a question.
Yeah.
And it's for Nicole. Where is that smiley face on the computer? I can never find it. She's just saying that.
Looks just like Town Hall.
You probably have an older version of Zoom. If you do, your raise your hand function is on your participant sidebar.
Okay, thanks, Nicole.
Okay.
Bye.
I believe that's it. Is that all the cases for this evening?
That is it.
All right. We'll see you all in 2 weeks then.